I don't think so. In fact, if anything, sometimes I think they get longer. You know, I think right now things are just so expensive. I think the FDA is very cautious. So I think if we're talking about medicine, I mean, we've also been involved, I didn't bring this up, in some non-medical things too, where we've used materials for different things. But I think from a medical standpoint, I don't think times are shortened.
But for T2 Biosystems or...
Well, that's diagnostics. Diagnostics, you mean shortened to get products? Is that...
I'm thinking about sequencing from the first time we had the first...
Oh yeah, well, technology's advanced. You can certainly do science more rapidly, if that's the question. I don't think you get products out the door more rapidly, but I think tools, you know, tools, diagnostics, some of those things, I think, you know, are probably, you know, you can do some things much more rapidly. Drugs and devices, I don't think you do. I think the regulatory hurdles have been really tough for a lot of companies.
Now, that's just a U.S. phenomenon, or do you think that's a...
I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. I think the U.S. is pretty bad, but I think that, you know, I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. I think particularly in drugs, well, I think devices too, the U.S. has been pretty tough. Yeah, well, I think it depends on how you look at it. So there's breakthroughs from the standpoint of science, and then there's breakthroughs from the standpoint of commercialization. Let me do the second thing first, and I think the angiogenesis example is not atypical. So, and the drug delivery isn't either. So really, if you look at what happened in those areas, the breakthroughs that I talked about were in the 1970s. The commercialization of drug delivery really didn't happen until the 1990s, and for the angiogenesis of till the 2000s. Both of those have sales in the tens of billions of dollars today. You know, and so, you know, and there's huge products. But the breakthroughs happen. So if I look at today, I mean, there are no nanotechnology-based products. I mean, we've made the breakthroughs. We probably made the breakthroughs in the 90s. But whether it's going to be Bind, Selecta, or somebody else, products I think are still probably another good 5 to 10 years away. And you know, so if we look at breakthroughs from that standpoint, it'll still take a while. And I think that's true. Regenerative medicine, I'd say the same thing. I think we've seen some big breakthroughs from a material standpoint. We've certainly seen, you know, iPS cells, you know, 5 years ago was certainly viewed as a tremendous breakthrough. I mean, again, I'll pick another example, which I didn't mention, which we're involved in, which is siRNA. You know, breakthrough there was maybe 13 years ago. But so those breakthroughs, to move those breakthroughs from the standpoint where there are commercialization breakthroughs, probably takes a good couple decades. What the next breakthroughs will be, you know, I don't know that we know. You know, I mean, breakthroughs, the science breakthroughs, because that's why they're breakthroughs. I mean, because you have to dream up what you think will change the future. But then you have to recognize, at least if you're talking about the medical area, it'll probably take 20 to 30 years to go, you know, like an amazing thing. Like say, if I look at the patent that I mentioned to you on drug delivery that we got, you know, we got a 1983 patent. It would have totally covered any drug-eluting stent, which were worth billions. Only problem was that by the time any drug-eluting stent came out, the patent expired. I mean, we did fine on the patent. I have no complaints. But, you know, but that's what happens in medicine. I mean, you dream up these things and you invent the future, but 20 years might seem like a long time. It's not such a long time, you know. And so most of the things that we've done, I think where we really made the scientific breakthrough, and it's not just us, it probably takes a good 20 years or more to create a product from it. Well, I don't think this, so I still think the big companies bring things to market and the big companies acquire the little companies. But I think what's happened, you know, and I've had the pleasure, or depending how you want to look at it or not, of being on the boards of a number of big companies like Wyeth before Pfizer acquired them. I think what happens with large companies is it's really hard to do innovation the same way you do small companies. It's really hard to take risks because people will often say, you can't do it, and you want to get a consensus. So I think highly risky things, to me, work better in small companies. Once they get to a certain point of proving that those risks are, you know, gonna not be such big risks, I think that those companies will either become giant companies like Genentech did and Amgen is still, you know, Gilead, or they will get acquired, you know, and either one can happen. And but I think that the culture of these small companies, I think, has been to take much greater risks. And so I think so I think you see the level of innovation. You know, I think large companies are trying to come up with ways to do that, but I think it's been very difficult for them to do that. You know, like Johnson & Johnson's got some interesting new strategies, which I hope will work. You know, they're trying to create these ventures like Beta Logics and regenerative medicine and others. I'm all for that. I think it's great. But by and large, I think large companies it's just harder to innovate. Small companies, you know, and we have tons of them, you know, between here and MIT, you know, and we've started a lot. I think you look at the spirit of it, people are just innovating, taking chances, taking risks, and, you know, sometimes we fall flat in our faces, but a lot of times we don't, you know, and I think so I just think that in terms of getting to that key proof of principle, which might be a clinical trial, might be now even a higher level clinical trial, it's much easier to get those things done in a small company.